My 7-year-old son warned me about my husband. His trembling voice startled me more than any alarm ever could. Mama, Daddy has a girlfriend, and when you go on your trip, he's going to take all your money. Aisha Bellwether was 39 years old, with a warm gaze that concealed a sharp mind. Her life, from the outside, appeared completely under control. Her house in a quiet, upscale neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia, was modern and immaculate, with soft aromas that always felt like home. She worked as a financial consultant for an international firm, a demanding but high-paying job that allowed her to spend significant time with her son, Amari. That night, Aisha had just finished reviewing a report for a critical meeting in Nashville. Her flight was scheduled for Tuesday morning. She was packing formal wear in her walk-in closet, while Amari, her 7-year-old, played with a jigsaw puzzle on the rug. He was a sweet, sensitive boy whose intelligence often astonished even his teachers. Aisha folded a crisp white blouse and called out to Amari from the closet, "Remember you're staying with your dad on Tuesday?" "Yeah, just for 2 nights." Amari didn't answer. He simply fitted a puzzle piece into place in silence. Aisha noticed his strange quietness, but figured he was just concentrating. After all, sometimes kids didn't like their moms to leave. Later that night, already in his pajamas, Amari asked her to stay with him a little longer before sleep. He lay down next to her, resting his head on her chest, and remained quiet for several minutes until he said something that sliced the night in two. "Mama," he whispered without looking up. "Daddy has a girlfriend." Aisha froze. She thought she hadn't heard him correctly. "What did you say, sweetie?" "That Daddy has a girlfriend. He spoke to her on the phone last night when he thought I was asleep. He was in the den. He told her that when you leave on your trip, they're going to the bank and they're gonna do something with the money." Aisha felt a cold dread wash down her back. She swallowed hard. "What exactly did you hear, Amari?" "He told that lady that you'd be away, and they had 3 days to get everything done. She laughed and said they'd finally be able to breathe easy." Aisha hugged her son without saying a word. She could hear her heart hammering in her chest, an urgent warning. Amari fell asleep quickly, but Aisha didn't close her eyes that night. At 3 in the morning, she got up and went downstairs to the kitchen to make coffee. She turned on the soft light in the dining room and opened her laptop. She searched through her emails for a file she had received a couple of weeks earlier. It was a scan of some documents Malik had asked her to sign right after her gallbladder surgery. He had said they were just to update their insurance policies. She found it. 5 pages, small print, confusing legal terms, but one heading immediately caught her attention. General power of attorney with broad authority. Her stomach clenched. Click. She opened another document. Authorization for administration of assets and property in the event of medical contingency. Her hands trembled. She remembered the afternoon she signed those papers. She still had the stitches from the operation. Malik had been loving, attentive. He served her tea, brought the papers over, and said, "It's just a formality, just in case. I want to be able to help you if anything ever happens." Now, those words carried a terrifying double meaning. Aisha closed the laptop. She paced the kitchen floor like a prisoner searching for a way out. Her husband, the man who swore eternal love, was plotting against her with another woman, and her son had been the accidental witness. At 4:30 in the morning, she checked her suitcase. Everything was packed, but now the idea of leaving the city filled her with panic. Instead of sleeping, she opened her work notepad and began writing a list of questions. How long have they been together? Who is she? Why does he want to take my money? How serious is what I signed? Am I in legal danger? At dawn, Malik woke up as if nothing were wrong. He kissed Aisha on the forehead and brewed coffee. "Did you pack everything?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, observing his every gesture, every word, as if he were a stranger. "What time are you leaving Tuesday?" "My flight is at 6:10 a.m. I have to leave the house at 4:30. Malik nodded. Then, without a hint of subtlety, he asked, "Are you coming back Thursday or Friday?" Aisha felt a sharp pang in her chest. She took a deep breath and said, "Make it Friday evening." "Perfect." And he smiled. That smile was the confirmation. While Amari ate breakfast, Aisha watched him with a mix of tenderness and rage, not against him, but against herself. She had ignored the signs, small absences, ridiculous excuses. Malik had spent more time in meetings, started taking calls on the patio, and changed his cell phone passwords. But she never imagined anything this low. In the afternoon, while Malik was at the grocery store, she called Zora Mathis, a former university colleague who was now an attorney. She requested an urgent meeting. At 7 o'clock sharp, Aisha entered Zora's office in a discreet downtown building. "Do you have the documents you signed?" her friend asked. Aisha opened her bag and pulled out a folder with the printouts. Zora read them in silence for several minutes. "Aisha, this is serious. What does it mean?" "You gave him full access. Your husband can make legal, financial, and medical decisions on your behalf. If he claims you are not mentally fit to manage your assets, he can act for you, even sell your house." Aisha felt sick. "And he can do it without me here?" "Yes. And if he's already planned it, this trip you're taking is the perfect window. He won't waste time. He'll move everything while you're out of state." "I have to revoke this, Zora." "I can help you, but we need to proceed with discretion. Are you willing to cancel your trip?" "Of course I am." "Okay, we're going to do two things. First, legally revoke the power of attorney. Second, notify the bank and restrict any unauthorized movements on your accounts. But we need proof of his intentions. Do you have a recording, a message, anything that involves him?" Aisha shook her head. "My son overheard him. He told the woman they were going to use my absence to handle everything at the bank." Zora looked thoughtful. "Would your son be willing to say that in front of a judge if this escalates? Amari is 7 years old." "I don't want to expose him." "Then we have to be smart. We'll prepare the revocation and seal all the avenues before he acts." Aisha left the firm with a plan. When she got home, Malik was waiting in the living room with a glass of wine. "Are you tense, or is it because of the trip?" She looked at him and forced a smile. "Yeah, just work stress. I didn't sleep well." "Relax, baby. Everything's going to be fine. Trust me." "I can't do that anymore," Aisha thought. Lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling for hours. Amari slept peacefully in the next room. He had saved her without realizing it. A whisper at the right time had stopped an earthquake, and deep down, she knew it. The calm she was seeing was just the calm before the storm. What she didn't know yet was that Malik's mistress wasn't just planning to steal her money. She was also planning to take her son. At 6 a.m., Aisha was still awake. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands clasped, cold coffee in a mug she hadn't touched. She listened to the wall clock ticking like a countdown. Her gaze was fixed, immobile, as if her mind were trapped in a thought she couldn't escape. Amari was still asleep. Malik was too. It wasn't time for him to wake up for work yet. Aisha knew she couldn't show a single crack. If he suspected anything, the plan she was assembling with Zora could fall apart. Any mistake could cost her not only her money but also her son. She got up and walked to the front door. She picked up the newspaper and, opening the mailbox, saw a white envelope among the correspondence. It had no visible return address, but the seal in one corner gave it away. Attorney Sterling Jones, Atlanta, GA. Her stomach lurched. She walked into the house as if holding a bomb. She carefully opened the envelope and extracted a copy of a notarial deed. In the bottom right corner, 2 names were signed as authorized witnesses, Malik Bellwether and Selah Montgomery. That name was a knife that cut away any hope that this was a misunderstanding. The document, dated weeks earlier, confirmed the validation of the power of attorney. Selah was not just the mistress. She was the woman who had helped her husband legalize a weapon against her. Aisha slowly lowered the paper. She rested it on the table as if it weighed tons. Her phone vibrated. A message from Zora. "I've contacted the specialist. He has an opening this afternoon. Get ready to act." Aisha looked up. Her eyes no longer held fear, they held fury. At 8 a.m., when Malik came down for breakfast, Aisha was ready, dressed in office wear, her laptop in her backpack, and a serene smile on her face. Malik watched her carefully, as if measuring every detail. "Do you have a meeting today?" he asked gently. "Yeah, with the Nashville team. Getting everything ready for the trip." "And what time do you fly on Tuesday?" he insisted, slowly stirring his coffee. 6:10 a.m. I have to leave the house at 4:30. Malik took a sip and nodded. He didn't look at her directly, but Aisha noticed the slight movement of his lips, a minimal, almost imperceptible smirk. "Did you check in yet?" he added. "Not yet. I'll do it tonight." "Why? No reason. Just wanted to know if you needed me to take you to the airport." Aisha held his gaze. She didn't look away. She wanted him to believe she trusted him, even though every cell in her body screamed the opposite. "I'll let you know if I need help," she replied, bringing the mug to her lips. When Malik left, Aisha locked the door. Then she sank against the wall. She took a deep breath. She forced herself not to cry. This day was not for tears. It was for strategy. At 11:30, she arrived at the firm Zora had indicated. She was greeted by a man about 50 years old, with graying hair and a severe face. His name was Sterling Jones, an attorney specializing in family estates and domestic fraud prevention. "I've reviewed the case. Your situation is more common than you think, but that doesn't make it any less dangerous." Aisha sat opposite him, still holding the notary envelope. "How bad is it?" Sterling took the documents, read them, and looked up. "Your husband has total control over your assets. He can sell your house, move your accounts, even sign medical decisions for you. Legally, he holds your entire life in his hands." Aisha felt an empty pit in her stomach. "And he can declare me incapacitated?" "Yes. In the event of mental or physical illness, with a doctor's certificate and the current power of attorney, he can request a declaration of incapacity. And if you're out of state, it's even easier to execute the process without immediate opposition." Aisha clenched her fists on the table. "Can they commit me to a clinic?" "Yes, and he wouldn't need your consent. A doctor's order and his signature as the authorized agent would be enough." Sterling paused. "Do you have any indication that this might be in their plans?" Aisha told him about Sela, the envelope in the mailbox, and what Amari had overheard. Sterling noted every detail. "I see. Yes, it's in motion." Aisha swallowed. "What can I do?" Sterling turned his monitor toward her. He showed her a plan divided into 3 phases. "First, we are going to revoke the power of attorney. I have direct contact at the attorney's office. If we sign today, your husband will receive the formal notification tomorrow, but that might alert him." Aisha looked at him with concern. "And if that makes him react, that's why the second step is vital. We are going to eliminate his access as a co-signer on all your accounts. Today, we'll move them to new, exclusive, protected accounts in your name. And third, we need solid proof of their intent. A recording, a failed attempt, something that proves your husband acted with premeditation." Sterling narrowed his eyes. "Are you willing to pretend you are going on the trip?" Aisha nodded without hesitation. "Anything to protect my son." Sterling smiled for the first time. "Good, then we'll play the same game, but with better cards." That night, Aisha had dinner with Malik and Amari, as if nothing had happened. Malik was more attentive than usual. He told jokes at the table. He offered to pack some things for the trip. He gently stroked Aisha's hair. She let him. Every caress was a disguise. Every smile was a weapon. "Do you remember those papers you signed weeks ago?" Malik asked after dinner. "The attorney called me. He said there are a few details to update. Can you stop by his office tomorrow?" Aisha felt a shiver. She got up with the excuse of doing the dishes. "I can't tomorrow. I have a full day. Better after the trip." "But the attorney said it's quick. Just one signature. Just go." I prefer to do it calmly when I get back." There was a tense silence. Malik set his silverware down on the table, harder than necessary. "Whatever you want." Aisha turned to hide her face, closed her eyes, and clenched her teeth. She knew she had thwarted his plan, and she also knew that he would start to panic now. The next morning, Aisha executed the plan with Sterling. She signed the revocation of the power of attorney, changed her accounts, and transferred all her savings to an exclusive, secure account. She even protected Amari's educational fund that Malik had helped create. When she finished, Sterling looked at her seriously. "As of today, he no longer has control over you, but he doesn't know it yet, and when he finds out, he won't react well." Aisha looked out the window. Outside, the city went about its routine, but inside her, everything was war. What if he tries something with Amari, if he wants to take him away? He can't. Legally, custody is shared. But if what you told me is true, I think he and Seela have something else in mind. Aisha turned to him. "What?" Sterling observed her gravely. "What if their plan is to make you look unstable so he can claim full custody?" Aisha didn't reply. The words hung in the air like poison. That night, while she was packing, pretending to prepare for the trip, Aisha found a card hidden among Malik's documents. It was for a private psychiatric clinic. On the back, handwritten, was a date, Wednesday the 10th, 9 a.m., and a name, Dr. Keisha Grant. Aisha felt the world move beneath her feet. That was their plan. She would leave on the Tuesday, and on Wednesday, Malik would have her declared unstable by a complicit psychiatrist. By Thursday, she likely wouldn't have a house, accounts, or a son. She looked at Amari, who was sleeping with his plush lion hugged in his arms. She sat next to him, stroked his hair, and silently swore that she would not allow them to touch him. Aisha was no longer just a wounded mother. She was a woman at war, and she had learned quickly to fight with intelligence. The previous night had been crucial. Hidden in the inner pocket of a folder among Malik's documents, she found the card for a private psychiatric clinic with an appointment scheduled for Wednesday the 10th, 9 a.m., with Dr. Keisha Grant. It was clear. That was the next step, to legally disappear her, to convert her into someone incapable, and then take everything, including Amari. The next step was to figure out who Malik was working with. She had a name, Seela Montgomery, but it wasn't enough. She needed more, to know who she was, what she did, and what connections she had. She needed to understand how far this web reached. After dropping Amari off at school, she sat in the driver's seat and took out her phone. She opened the browser and typed Seela Montgomery. Scattered results appeared. A LinkedIn profile, some notarial records, and a mention on the website of a financial consulting firm, Montgomery & Associates. She clicked on each link as if diffusing explosive mines. On the consulting firm's website, she found a photograph of Seela in a tailored suit, an impeccable smile, and a marked arrogance in her eyes. The description read, "Founding partner, specialist in personal wealth, asset management, and family fund restructuring." Aisha swallowed, looking again at the address. Peachtree Road, 2nd floor, Atlanta. Then she remembered. Malik used to say he had meetings at clients' offices on that very street. He had even taken Amari there once, he told her. Aisha had thought it was a bank. Now she understood everything. Seela wasn't new to Malik's life, nor was she just a consultant. Something inside Aisha told her that face wasn't entirely unfamiliar. She went back online, this time to Facebook, and searched the full name. There was a private account with no visible posts, only a profile picture. Seela, with her back turned, facing a picture window with a view of the city, the kind of image that doesn't show, but hints. Aisha decided to go further back. She searched for old photos on her own computer, forgotten digital albums, events, gatherings, wedding photos, honeymoon pictures, nothing. Until she found a folder Malik had sent her once called College. She opened it, and there she was. Seela, much younger, with longer hair, sitting next to Malik at a college party. In another photo, they were hugging. In one more, they were kissing. The photos were dated 2003. Selah wasn't just a mistress, she was his former girlfriend, the woman Malik had loved before he met Aisha, and now she had returned. Aisha sat alone in the dining room, the laptop in front of her, staring at the screen as if it were a recorded betrayal. She felt a mix of fury, fear, helplessness, and something more dangerous, a thirst for justice. Hours later, Amari came home from school. He was happy, with new drawings in his backpack. Aisha tried to act naturally while serving him a snack. "Mama, can I tell you something? But promise me you won't get mad." "Of course, sweetheart, tell me." Amari played with his glass of milk. "Daddy told me something, that when you go on your trip, he's going to take me to live with him and Selah, that we're going to get a puppy, that she cooks good food, and that there's a bed just for me there." Aisha felt her fingers go cold. "He told you that?" Amari nodded. "And he said you're going to be really busy, that you'll be working far away, and that he's going to take better care of me. But I want to live with you. You're going away." Aisha hugged her son and kissed him on the head. "No, baby, I'm not going away. Don't worry. Nobody is going to separate you from me." Amari didn't understand the gravity of her words, but Aisha did. That was the complete plan, not only to take her assets, but also to erase her presence from her son's life. At 9 p.m., Malik arrived home. He looked rushed, nervous. He brought a bag of pastries and a bottle of wine. He tried to act affectionate. He spoke to Aisha as if they were dating again. "You look beautiful tonight," he said while she was doing the dishes. "Thanks," she replied without looking at him. "I was thinking," he added, "what if after your trip we plan a little getaway, just you and me? No work, no kid, just us." Aisha managed a slight smile. "Why so romantic all of a sudden?" Malik looked at her with that forced smile he could no longer sustain. "Because I love you, Aisha, and sometimes I feel like we're drifting apart." "I'm drifting? That's funny." "You are. Maybe I just have a lot on my mind." Just then, Malik's phone vibrated. It was on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up. Aisha managed to read a name before he grabbed it. Selah. Malik immediately locked it. "Who was that?" Aisha asked, as if she hadn't seen anything. "A client from the office." Aisha looked at him in silence. She let it go. It wasn't the time to confront him. When Malik went into the shower, Aisha took his phone, locked herself in the guest bathroom, dialed Zora's number, and spoke in a low tone. "We have what we needed. He doesn't just want to rob me, he wants to keep my son. And Selah is part of everything. She was his girlfriend in college. They've been together for years." "Do you have any more direct proof?" Zora asked. "No, but I can get it." "Then do it. Record what you can. Conversations, messages, anything." That same night, Aisha activated the voice recorder on her phone and left it running in the living room while she pretended to be asleep on the couch. At 11:07, Malik made a call on speakerphone. "Hey, beautiful," he said in a low voice. "Is she asleep?" Selah asked from the other end. "Yeah, and she doesn't suspect a thing. Everything's ready. In 48 hours, it'll all be ours." "Are you sure the attorney will accept the transfer?" "Sure. He thinks it's for a family restructuring. She already signed the authorization when she had the surgery. She didn't even notice. And the house, too, but we did it through the real estate firm. My brother-in-law already received the down payment. We just need to sign the deed." "Perfect. I want to see you tomorrow. I have something to show you." "What is it?" "I'll show you in person, but I'll give you a hint. It's red lace." Aisha held her breath. She knew she had to save every second of that conversation. The recorder kept running until they hung up. The next day, Aisha took the recording to Sterling. The attorney listened intently, noting dates and names. "Good," he said when it was over. "We now have proof of premeditation and an asset transfer in progress." He mentioned a real estate firm. "Yes, and that his brother-in-law already received the down payment. I'm going to investigate the corporate name." That afternoon, Sterling called Aisha from his office. "I found it. The real estate firm is called Southern Properties. It's registered in the name of a Damien Montgomery. Sela's brother. Aisha felt the floor drop out from under her. They're selling my house to a shell company created by his mistress's family? Yes, but if we act now, we can stop it. We need to file an injunction and an urgent request for property review due to vitiated consent. Today. Do it. Sterling already had everything prepared. That night, Aisha came home, pretended to reserve a ride to the airport, left an empty suitcase at the bottom of the stairs, and hugged Amari tightly before putting him to bed. She didn't say goodbye, she just whispered in his ear, "Tomorrow, everything is going to be all right." While Malik slept, Aisha sent a message to Zora and Sterling. She was ready for the next step, feigning her departure and watching the trap close. What Malik didn't know was that he was already being watched, and his own words had sealed his ruin. Aisha opened her eyes before the alarm went off. It was 4:12 in the morning. The darkness in the room was absolute, but inside her, there was a clarity she hadn't known, the certainty that she was about to change everything. She got up in silence, dressed in the same jeans and shirt she had laid out the night before, took the empty suitcase she had placed at the bottom of the stairs, and went down without making a sound. Malik slept in the adjacent room, as if he expected to celebrate a quiet victory the next day. He believed everything would happen according to his plan. Aisha out of state, the house ready to be transferred, the accounts about to be emptied, the son lined up to be taken with him, and a new life with Sela as the final flourish. But all of that was a carefully constructed lie. Aisha put the suitcase in the trunk of her car, started the engine, set the GPS to the airport, and left the neighborhood without looking back. About 4 blocks away, she stopped the car, turned off the lights, and parked in a small, discreet back garage that Sterling had arranged for her. It was a property the lawyer used for delicate cases like hers. There, inside a small house that functioned as a legal monitoring center, Sterling was waiting for her. "Everything good?" he asked, opening the door. "I didn't sleep, but I'm ready," Aisha replied as she entered. The place had a desk with 2 open laptops, a functioning coffee maker, and a central monitor connected to surveillance cameras. Sterling offered her a cup of coffee, but she barely touched it. All her attention was on the screens. "Are you clear on what we're going to do?" he asked. Aisha nodded. "We're going to wait for him to act." "Exactly. Your accounts are already blocked. The power of attorney is revoked. The bank has been notified. Everything is legally shielded. Now the important thing is for him to expose himself." At 8:03 a.m., Malik sent the first text message. "Sweetheart, did you board yet? Everything okay?" Aisha ignored him. At 8:47, another one arrived. "Let me know when you land. I want to know you're safe." Sterling noted the time. Each message would be part of the legal timeline they would build later. At 9:10, one of the cameras connected to the bank branch captured movement. Malik entered the main door in a light gray suit, a black folder under his arm, and an expression of confidence on his face. Sela was waiting for him outside in a white car parked illegally, checking her phone. "There he is," Aisha muttered, not taking her eyes off the screen. "Let's see how long it takes for him to drop the mask," Sterling said, activating the recording. Malik approached the executive service area, showed his ID, and handed over the documents. The camera focused from a discreet angle. The conversation was partially audible through the ambient microphone the bank had authorized for legal cases. "As the legal agent for Ms. Aisha Bellwether, I want to liquidate the funds in account number." The executive, a woman in her 40s, checked her computer. Her face changed. She cautiously looked up. "1 moment, please." She called her superior. A tall man with glasses appeared behind the glass, reviewed the papers, then gave a dry nod, picked up the phone, and dialed an extension. Malik frowned, crossing his arms. "Is there a problem?" he asked in a tense voice. "We are just verifying the information," the manager replied. Sela got out of the car and approached the door, looking in nervously. She paced back and forth while checking her watch. On the camera, they heard Malik murmur under his breath, "This was supposed to be done today. My wife is out of state." Aisha felt her heart rate accelerate. Hearing those words from his mouth was like having a written confirmation. The manager returned with the folder in hand. Mr. Bellwether, I must inform you that the power of attorney was revoked less than 24 hours ago. Furthermore, your access as a co-signer has been removed. You are no longer authorized to make any movements in these accounts. Malik paled. That is impossible. And I repeat, sir, you do not have legal authorization, and the documents you presented are invalid. This is crazy. She signed this. I'm her husband. The system has been updated. The information allows no exceptions. Malik raised his voice and slammed the table. You don't know who you're dealing with. The executive immediately stood up. The manager pressed a button under the desk. Security approached down the hallway. Seela entered the bank just then. What's going on? She said loudly, approaching Malik. They're denying us access. They say she revoked everything, he replied beside himself. But didn't you say it was done? She signed it. She signed it while she was recovering. And how could she annul it so fast? Who helped her? I don't know, but this had to be done today. Aisha listened to every word from the laptop. Sterling recorded everything in real time. Everything they needed for a lawsuit for attempted fraud was there. Audio, video, dates, revoked documents. Malik and Seela exposed in their desperation. On the screen, the manager gestured with his hand. Malik was escorted toward the exit. Seela left before him, talking on the phone, agitated. Sterling paused the recording. That was perfect. Aisha brought her hands to her face. She didn't cry, but the emotional weight was crushing. Seeing him, hearing him, knowing that he had truly tried to execute everything hurt more than any imagined betrayal. At 11:02, Aisha's phone vibrated. It was Malik. She didn't answer. It vibrated again. Then another number. Then a text message. Where are you? Why did you do this? We need to talk now. Sterling looked at her. Don't answer. Let him talk into the void. Every call, every desperate message is proof of his knowledge of the plan and your clear position as the victim. Aisha took a deep breath. What if he goes home? What are we waiting for? We already have hidden cameras activated, and you are not there. You have an airtight alibi. Every minute of this day is documented. At 12:21, an alert popped up on the screen. Malik was in front of their house, knocking on the door, banging insistently. Then he paced in circles, took out his phone, and called again. Aisha, answer me. Where are you? Did you talk to someone? Who put this in your head? Aisha watched him from the screen. There you are, she murmured. The man who claimed to love me. Malik sat down on the front steps, phone glued to his ear, breathing heavily. Seela arrived minutes later. She got out of the car and argued with him. The camera captured the gestures, her yelling and throwing her phone to the ground. They looked like a couple in chaos. The mask of perfection had broken, and what remained was a mess they could no longer control. At 2:30 p.m., they left. Sterling turned off the monitor. Aisha, this is enough to file a complaint for attempted fraud, breach of trust, falsification of documents, and misuse of power of attorney. And if the judge approves it, we can request a protective order and an immediate restraining order. Aisha looked at the black screen. She was no longer afraid. I want to do it today. Sterling nodded. We will do it. And with this, we won't just stop them. He leaned toward her with total seriousness. We will legally destroy them. Aisha stood up, took her purse. Her son was waiting for her, and she was no longer just a mother confronting a traitor. She was a woman who had won with intelligence and dignity against those who tried to snatch everything from her. Arriving home, she found Amari in the living room watching cartoons with his favorite plush lion in his arms. Hearing the door, he ran toward her and hugged her tightly. Aisha squeezed him against her chest. It had been a long week, longer than a 7-year-old should have to live through, even if he didn't fully grasp the magnitude of the disaster he had prevented. Did you leave or didn't you, Mama? Amari asked, looking at her with that mix of curiosity and tenderness only children have. Aisha stroked his head. No, baby. I stayed close. I had to keep an eye on something very important, something you helped me see. And you were so brave." Amari didn't ask any more questions. He just smiled, as if his world felt secure again. But Aisha knew that world was still at risk, that Malik, cornered and wounded in his pride, was about to take the next step, and that step would be dangerous. At 6 p.m., her cell phone rang. Unknown number. Aisha looked at Sterling, who was with her in the kitchen reviewing the digital file of the complaint they would file the next day. "Answer it," the lawyer said. "I have the application recording in the background. Just stay calm. Don't give in to his tone. Don't show anger. Just listen and respond. We need him to talk enough to incriminate himself." Aisha nodded and slid her finger across the screen. "Hello?" From the other side, Malik's voice came out loaded with a barely concealed tension. "Where are you?" "That doesn't matter," she replied serenely. "What number are you calling from?" "I had to use another phone. You blocked mine. And what do you want, Malik?" There was a pause. Then his tone changed. He went from aggressive to supposedly hurt, as if he still thought he could appeal to her soft side. "I need us to talk, you and me. What happened this morning was crazy. We misunderstood each other. You're acting like I'm a criminal." Aisha remained silent for a few seconds. "And aren't you?" "Of course not. What are you saying? You know me. I'm your son's father. I'm your husband." "The father of my son, who tried to empty my accounts while pretending to be worried about my flight. The husband who signed documents behind my back with his mistress. That one." He sighed heavily. "You're exaggerating. It wasn't like that. You have no idea how you've made me feel. Like an intruder. A thief." "You are not a thief. I just wanted—" He paused. "We just wanted what's also ours, Selah and I." Aisha looked up at Sterling, who was nodding as he took notes. Everything was going as they expected. "You're including that woman as part of our family now. She's been with me longer than you know. And you? You never gave us enough. Always working, always in your world. And everything I brought to the table. You brought a plan to get rid of me. No, that's not true. Were you not planning to commit me with the help of a psychiatrist? Didn't you have an appointment already scheduled to declare that I was emotionally unstable?" Malik was silent. "And the house? Were you not planning to transfer it to a company that turned out to be in the name of your mistress's brother?" "It's not what you think." "And what is it then? A coincidence?" "It's justice, Aisha. Justice for everything you took from me all these years." "What did I take from you?" "My place. You were always the one who shined, the one who earned more, the one who made the decisions. I was just the accessory. Do you know what it's like to live feeling invisible? And that's your justification? To make me disappear so you could feel like someone?" Malik muttered something under his breath. Sterling turned up the volume on the recorder. "I didn't want it to get out of hand," Malik finally said. "We just wanted to start over. You were never going to allow it. You're right. I was never going to allow you to take what belongs to me or my son." Just then, Amari appeared at the dining room doorway. He listened intently, not understanding everything, but understanding enough. "Mama," he said in a shaky voice, "are you talking to Daddy?" Aisha looked at him and gently signaled for him to come closer. She took his hand and sat him next to her. "Yes, I am talking to him." Amari stayed quiet, but tears started to run down his cheeks. "Is he going to take me from you?" "Never," she replied in a low voice. "He will never take you from my side." On the phone, Malik heard everything. "Is he there? Are you using our son for this?" "I am protecting him," she replied calmly. "The way you didn't." Malik let out a huff. "You're sick. You need help and you need a lawyer." He hung up. Sterling stopped the recording. That was pure gold. He incriminated himself 3 times: attempted fraud, breach of trust, and complicity with third parties. "We'll take this to the district attorney's office tomorrow. The case is no longer just civil. Now it enters the criminal realm." Aisha hugged Amari tightly. He hid his face in her chest, sobbing quietly. She stroked his back, whispering words she could barely pronounce because the knot in her throat was too large. The next morning, Sterling and Aisha filed the complaint with the Family and Estate Fraud Unit. They attached the recording, the revoked documents, screenshots of the notary appointments, the attempted bank movement, and Selah Montgomery's background. And then came the surprise. One of the investigators checked Selah's file and found a previous complaint of workplace fraud for signature falsification at her former consulting firm. She had been fired for altering a contract without client consent in a case that never reached trial but was settled with an out-of-court agreement. Sterling rubbed his hands together. That gives us the perfect angle. If she was caught falsifying before and now attempted it again with you, we can use her history as a pattern of behavior, and that makes this more than an attempt. It's recidivism. Aisha didn't respond. She just felt that finally, little by little, the weight was lifting from her back. The same system that for years seemed to be on the side of the powerful was this time on hers. The district attorney's office accepted the formal complaint. The house could not be transferred. The accounts were protected, and most importantly, an investigation was initiated for attempted estate fraud, falsification of documents, and emotional abuse toward a minor. That night, Aisha sat on the sofa with Amari. They watched a movie together. They laughed at times. But when he fell asleep, curled up next to her, Aisha watched him in silence. She knew the hardest part was yet to come. She knew Malik wouldn't stay quiet and that Selah wouldn't let defeat humiliate her without a fight. But now, she wasn't walking alone. The law was with her. The evidence was on her side, and her son was sleeping peacefully. That was all she needed for now, because what came next would be definitive. And she was not willing to lose another inch, another tear, or another second. The General Court building stood like a concrete tower amidst busy Atlanta avenues and anonymous faces. Aisha watched it from the car while Sterling reviewed the documents one last time. His leather briefcase rested on his lap, and inside, every page was an open wound. Proofs, captures, recordings, testimonies, everything needed for the system to stop pretending that justice was optional. "Are you ready?" Sterling asked without looking at her. "No one is ready for this," she replied in a steady voice, "but we're doing it anyway." They entered the main door at 8:02 a.m. The air smelled of paper, reheated coffee, and contained nerves. Sterling greeted an officer he had spoken to the afternoon before. Aisha handed over her ID, signed the forms, and was led to a small waiting room with white walls and a discreet camera in the corner. At 8:17, Malik arrived. He was dressed in black, without a tie. Selah was by his side, wearing dark sunglasses and a gray blazer that failed to hide the tension on her face. Malik avoided looking at Aisha, but Selah didn't. She watched her with a mixture of hatred, contempt, and fear, because she knew everything was about to come out. The judge presiding over the preliminary hearing was a man with white hair, thick eyebrows, and a measured voice. His tone conveyed authority effortlessly, the kind of judge who had seen more betrayals than weddings in his life. He took his seat, reviewed the files, and asked the plaintiff's side to begin. Sterling stood up. Aisha took a deep breath. "Your Honor, my client was the victim of a series of premeditated acts by her husband and Ms. Selah Montgomery with the aim of stripping her of her estate, nullifying her legal capacity, and taking custody of her minor son. We attach documentary evidence, audio, video recordings, and testimonies. Furthermore, we present evidence that the defendants attempted to use a power of attorney obtained through deception, signed during a medical recovery period following major surgery." The judge reviewed the papers, pausing at the seals, dates, and signatures. He made some notes. Then he turned to Malik. "Mr. Bellwether, do you have anything to declare?" Malik stood up. His voice trembled at first, but then he found a firm, almost indignant tone. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. My wife is going through an emotional crisis. She has a history of severe anxiety. She has been under constant pressure for years. I was only trying to protect her. She signed the documents in full awareness. What we did was for the good of the family. There was no deception and no intent to harm her." Aisha let out a dry laugh. She couldn't contain it. The judge looked up. "Ms. Bellwether, do you wish to say something?" Aisha stood up unhurriedly. Her dark blue dress made her look formidable, resolute. Her voice didn't tremble once. "You used my medical recovery as an opportunity. That doesn't make you smart. It makes you a coward. I signed those papers with morphine in my system. You told me it was an insurance update. You never gave me a choice. And while I slept on the couch, you plotted with your mistress how to take my house, my accounts, and my son. I have everything recorded. Selah saying, 'In 48 hours, it'll be ours.' You yelling at the bank that my wife is out of state. It's all here, and it all has a date, time, and context." Malik looked down. Selah crossed her arms tightly. "Furthermore," Aisha continued, "my son spoke up. He told his teacher he was scared, that his dad had told him that when I left, he would go live with Selah, that they would get a puppy, as if that were enough to erase his mother." The judge requested silence with a slight hand motion. Then he requested that the audio and videos be presented. The recording at the bank, the phone call, the intercepted conversation between Malik and Selah. Every word filled the room like a verdict. No one spoke. No one breathed. When they finished, the judge leaned back in his seat. After listening to the evidence, and given the clear indications of document falsification, intent to defraud, and emotional manipulation toward a minor, I proceed to issue the following precautionary measures. A restraining order against Mr. Malik Bellwether and Ms. Selah Montgomery, in favor of Ms. Aisha Bellwether and her minor son. Furthermore, the freezing of any attempted asset transfer is ordered until the main case is resolved. Malik literally crumbled. He slumped into his chair as if all the air had evaporated from his lungs. Selah grabbed her purse and left the room without looking back. The judge asked for coordination with social services. Hours later, a social worker visited Amari's school. She spoke with his teacher, the counselor, and then the boy himself. In her report, she noted that Amari clearly recounted that his father had told him he would soon live with him and Selah, and that his mother was too tired to care for him. Evasive attitudes on Malik's part were also reported in previous school meetings, where he avoided emotional topics and limited himself to discussing logistics, schedules, and routines. The report was damning. Negligence of emotional well-being and attempted manipulation of the minor's environment for the purpose of forced separation from the maternal core are confirmed. Aisha received the document at home and read it in silence. Every word was a dagger, but it was also a brick in the wall protecting her. Amari was playing in the backyard with a paper airplane. He didn't know that his story was being written in official files, nor that his voice, small and trembling, had been the most powerful of all. That same week, Sterling received a call from the district attorney's office. "We have a proposal," they told him. "If the affected party agrees, we can offer a settlement to avoid a lengthy trial." Malik and Selah were willing to accept formal responsibility to avoid jail time. The deal consisted of 3 years of probation, full restitution for any failed financial movements, loss of rights over any shared assets, criminal records for attempted fraud and document falsification, and voluntary relinquishment of shared custody. Sterling hung up and looked at Aisha. "What do you think?" "I want him to be marked. I want the world to know who he is. But more than anything, I want peace. I want my son to grow up without having to see that reflection in his eyes." "Then we accept." They signed the agreement 2 days later. Malik didn't look at Aisha once. Selah's face was hidden behind dark glasses that didn't disguise her defeat. The signing was quick, almost routine, as if attempts at betrayal, theft, and emotional destruction could be sealed with black ink on plain paper. When Aisha left the building with Sterling, she breathed the cleanest air she had felt in months. It was as if the weight had stopped hanging from her chest. At the house, Amari was waiting with a drawing. "You're my superhero," it said, with a stick figure wearing a red cape. She smiled, hugged him, and for the first time in a long time, she did it without fear. She had won. Not just the case, but the certainty that no attempt at manipulation, no profound betrayal, no false documents, and no cold words could defeat a mother determined to protect what was hers. And that battle, the one that wasn't in the laws or the files, but in the heart, she had already won. Time doesn't erase, but it transforms. What was once a field of emotional warfare was now a peaceful home. The walls that once guarded secrets and tension now had drawings taped to them, phrases written in marker, and the smell of freshly baked cookies. Amari, now 12 years old, had grown taller than Aisha imagined. His voice was deeper, his gaze firmer, but he retained the same watchful eyes that, 5 years earlier, had revealed a truth that changed everything. He still slept with the window slightly ajar and still set his alarm clock half an hour earlier than necessary, just to get ready without rushing. Aisha said it was because he liked the silence of the morning, but she knew it was something else. She knew that Amari, even if he didn't say it, had learned from a very young age that everything could change at any moment, and he wanted to be ready just in case. Aisha had sold the house 1 year after winning the case. She didn't want to keep living in the same spaces where Malik had plotted her ruin. She moved to a smaller but brighter home, with a garden and an open kitchen that became the center of her new life. She kept few pieces of furniture, few objects, only the essentials, as if her soul also needed space to breathe. She worked independently now. She left the consulting firm and created her own advisory project for women in situations of legal vulnerability. She had 2 employees, 3 large clients, and 100 stories that confirmed every day that her fight had not been in vain. That morning, Amari left school with an envelope in his hand. He walked to the car with a smile he couldn't hide. "Mama," he said as he buckled his seatbelt, "they gave me this." Aisha took the envelope and opened it carefully. The logo of the Phoenix Rising Academic Foundation was printed on the header. She read the letter twice, then looked at him. Her heart was racing. "They offered you the full scholarship." Amari nodded without speaking. "You are incredible," she finally said. "Absolutely incredible." That night, Aisha went to her desk. She opened a small wooden box she kept at the bottom of the drawer. She took out a sheet of paper folded in 3. It was a handwritten letter in blue ink on simple paper. It had been kept there for 5 years. She wrote it in the midst of the chaos when the truth was starting to emerge and life still hung by a thread. She had never shown it to him. "Amari," she said, while he was doing homework at the dining room table, "I have something for you." She handed him the letter without saying more. Amari opened it with trembling hands. As he read, his face changed. His eyes clouded over. He bit his lip, finished reading, and held it against his chest. "You wrote this when everything was happening?" "Yes, I never knew if it was the right time, but now I know it is." Amari hugged her. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The next day, Aisha received a legal notification. The sender was a firm she didn't recognize. She opened the document with the same coolness she had learned to cultivate in recent years. Selah Montgomery was attempting to contact her through an attorney, not for business or apologies. The document was brief, ambiguous. It said she wished to convey some words that she had changed, that she sought forgiveness not to redeem herself, but to close a cycle. It requested a face-to-face meeting. Aisha closed the envelope, placed it on the table, stared at it for 5 minutes, then stood up, went to the kitchen, took a match from the box, and lit it. She watched the fire consume the document inch by inch until it turned to black ashes. Selah deserved nothing. 2 weeks later, Aisha found another envelope in the mailbox. This time the handwriting was unmistakable. Malik. The name didn't even need a signature. His stroke was tattooed in her memory. She sat in the garden. The sky was clear. She opened the envelope without emotion. The letter was long. It said he had lost his job, that Selah had left him, that his parents no longer wanted anything to do with him, that he was living in a rental, and that he regretted everything more each day. He spoke of loneliness, remorse, how much he missed Amari, how much he missed her. He asked for forgiveness, expected nothing. He just needed to say it. Aisha folded the letter calmly, stood up, went into the house, tossed it into the fireplace, and watched the flames until not a trace remained. Amari never asked if his father had written, as if he knew that door should not be opened. 2 years prior, Aisha had a partner. It didn't last long. He was kind, patient, but Aisha wasn't the same. There were wounds that didn't need love to heal. They needed time, and time was finally doing its work. That night, Amari approached her while they were having dinner. "Are you ever going to tell this whole story?" Aisha looked at him. "What do you mean? What happened? Everything from the beginning. What you did, what he tried. Are you going to tell anyone?" Aisha put down her cutlery. She thought for several seconds. "Maybe I won't tell it as my story," she said, "but as a story that could happen to anyone. A story where a mother believed she was safe until she was betrayed, and where a 7-year-old child, without meaning to, saved his mother from losing everything." Amari looked at her with that intensity that was no longer a child's, but not yet an adult's. "And do you think anyone would have believed you if I hadn't said anything?" Aisha lowered her gaze. "Maybe not." "Then why didn't you thank me more times?" Aisha smiled. "Because ever since you did, I never stopped being thankful, just not always with words." Amari stood up, kissed her on the forehead, and went up to his room. The door closed slowly. Aisha remained seated. She looked at the lamp lit over the table, the clock marking 10:47, the tablecloth she had sewn herself during the toughest nights. She allowed herself one tear, just one, and it wasn't out of sadness or even relief. It was a tear of closure because there was nothing left to fix and nothing left to recover. The story had ended, and in her inner voice, as if someone were dictating to her from the depths of her soul, Aisha knew that if she ever decided to share what she had lived through, she would start like this. Money doesn't measure love. It measures greed. And sometimes betrayal doesn't come from an enemy, but from the person sleeping next to you. But it is also true that the purest love can come from a 7-year-old son who, with a whisper, saves your life. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with